You're right. We can talk and talk and talk, but what does Winston say? All hooey and no dooey or something? Yeah, we're a party of lots of dooey. Welcome to FirstHand, the New Zealand First podcast. I'm Tanya Unkovich, your host and a New Zealand First List MP. Join me and my guests as we explore the first-hand experiences and perspectives of New Zealand First and our journey to bring balance, experience and common sense to our politics. Today we're talking with Keegan Langeveld, Chairman of Young New Zealand First. Join us as we discuss the unique challenges of youth politics, moving up into Parliament and the future of New Zealand First. This is FirstHand. Hello, Keegan. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm really well, really well. So you're our next guest.
Yes, I'm excited. Happy to be here.
I'm sure everyone's going to be really excited to hear everything you've got to say. Just reading through some of your profile, you've got an interesting life, had an interesting life for such a young man.
Yes, I do get that quite a lot, but I don't consider myself particularly interesting. I'm just me.
Oh, well, let's be the judge of that at the end of this, eh? So, look, tell us a little bit about yourself, your personal journey, and how your experiences, such as this big one, of being born prematurely. Tell us about how that's shaped your perspective on life and politics.
So, obviously, as you mentioned, I was born prematurely. When I was born, I was the size of my hand. I was born 3 months early. They had to shoot my mum up from Invercargill to Dunedin Hospital. So, despite being raised in Southland and being a Southland boy, I born in Otago and eventually returned there for university. But that was kind of a big defining factor for the rest of my life, because there's long-standing complications with being born premature. There's just the fact that I overcame very, very low survival chances. It sets a new worldview, or a different worldview than I may have had if I was just born at term. I consider every day, I guess, a blessing because of the low survival rate, especially at the time. I kind of found, as I got older, that it more informed how I approach life and how I feel about the world. But that's only one of the really big important things that I think have shaped my life. When I was 8 years old, I lost my brother in a car accident. And so that's another big one. And going to high school at a low decile school, the lowest decile school in Invercargill, we had fewer resources than every other school, fewer students, but a huge sense of community came from that. Everyone was connected, everyone knew each other, and I was very privileged to lead the student body as head boy in my final year. So those three kind of experiences, they're all very different, but they've all informed how I've approached life as a young adult. But approached kind of the way I approached university, they informed that, and what I've tried to do post-university and even while I was still at university, in terms of the differences I want to make and the people that I want to stand up for and all that kind of stuff.
Gosh, you've suffered a lot of adversity for a young man, haven't you? I'm really sorry to hear that sadness you've been through. And what it's done has made you so resilient, from what I know about you. And hearing what you're saying now, you're living life every day in a state of gratitude. Yeah. And that's got to be a powerful thing for you.
Yeah, definitely. It's it's a worldview that I found quite natural, but I forget how, I guess, unique it is. A lot of people don't necessarily have the same approach to how they go about life, or they're significantly more entitled. They think they deserve certain things rather than knowing that you have to work for things you want, and I guess that's something that I've always known, and it's weird to go through life and see other people my age say, we deserve this, we deserve that, without putting in any effort or doing any work or having any consideration for the wider impacts of what they're demanding. It's a mindset, I guess, that I just can't comprehend.
Well, also you miss out on learning the skill of personal responsibility.
Oh, yes.
And taking ownership. And as the saying goes, what's bad is always available, but so is what is good.
Yes.
So let's focus on what is good, and that sounds like how you live your life.
I'd like to think so.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about why you joined New Zealand First.
It's not really an exciting answer. I've always been interested in politics. I love the great statesmen of the West, people like Winston Churchill, John F. Kennedy, to some extent, some of the other American presidents. I think every American president's got good values that I like to nerd out about. So always, really interested in that kind of stuff. And then going into university, I knew that I wanted to join some kind of political club, whether that was an actual youth wing or a kind of advocacy group. I just wanted to have a way to give back. So I think it was Clubs Day or Tent City. They're very similar events, but I went around all the political stalls and had conversations with the people working them, and for the most part, a lot of the people were rude or very in their echo chamber, not willing to have conversations, which huge turn off in terms of trying to find a group to belong to. You don't want people to open with being rude or severely uninterested. And then I come across the New Zealand First stand, and people that were manning it were very lovely, and that gave me a bit of a starting point to go and reflect. And then I started researching the policies, and I was like, this is pretty in line with what I believe. I love New Zealand First's approach to education and our approach to the Defence Force. So that was those two things, like the policies around them, were the huge kind of jumping point for me that got me involved.
And now you're part of a cool party. That's one thing I've discovered too, that people are cool, right?
Yes, amazing people, beautiful sense of family and community within our membership, and that's something that I genuinely don't see when I look at other parties. I see them manning event stalls at O Weeks, and there's people that are friends and friendly, but it's too rigid. The dynamics are all too rigid. Whereas we're very relaxed and interconnected, and I think that comes across when people stop off at us. So they might stop by our stall without aligning with our beliefs, but they know that they can come and approach us and have a good conversation, an authentic conversation, whereas I don't think you can get that from the other parties.
Interesting. Plus a good laugh.
Yes.
You'll always get a good laugh from us, right? That's what I love about the party.
I'd like to think we're full of good humour. But
Yes. When did the Young New Zealand First Wing commence?
I think the first formal structure was set up in 2017. I think it was originally set up as more of an informal lobbying group within the party. It was a set of like-minded young people, and they fought for it to be constitutionally formed and adopted. And now, constitutionally, every member under the age of 30 is technically part of Young New Zealand First, but we were provided the means to have our own committee, funding, all that kind of stuff. So very grateful to all of those people that put in all that effort to establish the youth wing and give young people a voice within the party. And I mean, it was supported by a huge number of our MPs at the time, that we're a very democratic party. The membership gets to vote on all of those important things like that. And there was a bit of pushback from some of the membership. They said, well, we're all New Zealanders. Why do we need a separate group? Why do we need to label these people? And which, it's a fair point. We view everything as a whole. That's our thing. But a lot of the MPs stood up and said, well, no, it's about giving these young people a way to express opposing views that might be a generational divide, and give them that way to collectively connect. And I know that's a very important view that the leader holds, that Winston holds. He's always gone out of his way to hear the youth wing's perspective on things. And I mean, we've had great policy chats on things. We've talked about things that Young New Zealand First has gotten up and presented on. Because he's just a treasure trove of wisdom. I found that having a conversation with him about some of the policy stuff that we want to put forth at convention has been immensely helpful with that. And we've actually, since I've been involved, at least since I'm leader, we've never had a policy proposal at convention that's failed. We've always gotten up and made our case, and there's been pushback on some things, but if we've gotten up to make a point, we've always been able to make the case, and that wouldn't be possible without the formal structure of Young New Zealand First.
Now, Dunedin, it's a place very dear to your heart. Speak to us a bit about that.
So, as I mentioned, it was where I was born, but it's also where I started my, academic journey. It's where I went to university. It's where I met some of the people that I consider really good friends within New Zealand First, almost family. People like Anthony Odering, who was the chairman of Dunedin at the time and is still involved, and amazing Mark Patterson, who at the time when I met him was an MP, and we had 3 long years out in the cold together in Dunedin, and now he's back in Parliament as an MP and as a minister now, and it's great to see that. But it's also where I met a lot of my really good friends that have really shaped my life, my young life, which is awesome. But it's also where I ran my first campaign.
Yes.
So that's where I ran my first personal campaign, and it's also where I managed my first campaign. So I was Mark's campaign manager in 2020. That was such a cool experience. So it's, lots of really cool memories and experiences there. It's just, dear to my heart, and it will be forever now.
Wonderful. And now you're part of the Young New Zealand First, yes?
Yes, yep. So
Tell us about that.
I've led the youth wing since, I think it was the start of 2021, so not long after the very unfortunate result of 2020. The youth wing was in a state where the wind was taken out of our sails right as we were starting to get going. And it was kind of my job to come in and try and keep as much of that community together and pull us together. And we're still going now, so I'd like to think that I've done that. And I'm very thankful to have been re-elected for the last three years. I think we've had 3 votes for chairman. I've got a great team that work with me at the executive level, and we're starting to see more interest from young people in New Zealand First. So I think the youth wing is going to be a very important conduit between the membership and the MPs.
And your life that you have led, your resilience and everything that you've faced, your outlook on life, living in a place of gratitude, has all helped you remain steady during that speed bump and then to rebuild, right?
Yes, I'd say so. It's definitely given me the tools to adapt to the difficulties of that entire situation. But it's also given me, I guess, a unique approach, because a lot of people would double down and say, we have to start driving membership. We have to start, they'd get real, I guess, militant in terms of trying to rebuild. But I took a bit more of a holistic approach of, we need to make sure we've got a good community here first, and then we need to be bringing people in that that need a political home. Young people that feel like they can't subscribe to the two big parties or the other parties on the fringe. People that want a results-driven party that's down the middle, that's common sense, it's balanced. People that want results for their effort. So I had to kind of foster a positive community before anything else. And I think the world that I grew up in made sure I was able to do that. I knew that people come with their own personal difficulties, and the best thing for them is to be supported and valued as people. So that's kind of what I tried to do over those, especially I'd say the first 18 months for sure, and then just in general moving forward.
Yeah, life is of seasons, right? And what follows winter is always spring.
Yes.
And what follows challenges are always opportunities. So now you're in that season.
Yep.
Great. So tell us a little bit more about you and this belief that you're a fighter, and how that shows up in your leadership style.
So when I talk about being a fighter, I don't mean the kind of aggressive type, obviously.
Inner fighter.
I've got that that inner spirit of never giving up. Things can seem hopeless, and I will still fight to get the result. But I'll do it my way. I won't stoop to different levels of behaviour that maybe other groups have. I will always approach situations with logic, kindness, and respect, and hope that those values will triumph over some of the more petty aspects of especially youth politics. I mean, it's ridiculous sometimes. So, I try to instill that amongst the executive of Young New Zealand First and then our general membership, and hope that by leading with my chin, more people will adopt that ethos, and things will work out.
Keep leading by example, that's right.
Yep. If I'm not prepared to do something myself, I can't ask other people to do it.
Yeah, and those who are ready to see it and follow will.
Yep, exactly.
That's always the way. And some others might not be ready yet.
Yep, and then it's about trying to bring them to a point where they can be ready to I don't know, take on new challenges or just adapt their thinking. So with O Weeks, we try to get to as many as we can, but there's different requirements for different universities. It's all bureaucratic and annoying. But we'll be at Auckland, Waikato, and Victoria University this year. We're hoping to have MPs at all of our events across the board. We typically run yay or nay boards at university events, so that's where we put up a bunch of policies. I think it's usually about 6 or 7, and ask people whether they agree or disagree. And we find that it's a really good conversational starting point, but it's also a good reflection for us as the youth wing to get the pulse of what the electorate, the young electorate, is feeling about certain things and certain ideas, and it gives us an opportunity to say, oh, okay, the party may have this policy, a lot of young people are disagreeing with a certain aspect of that. How do we address that? Is that something that we have to lobby the party to change? Or is that something that we need to educate the public about. Because when it comes to policies, there's always misunderstandings. So it's really, really valuable for that. But it's also great to surprise a lot of young people with some of our policies. One of my favourite is should we fund the Defence Force to, I think it's 2% of GDP is what our long-standing policy has been. And a lot of people go, no, don't fund them. We don't need to be funding war. And then I go, well, actually, New Zealand's Defence Force doesn't do war. That's not what they do. What they do is respond to climate emergencies across the Pacific. When there's a natural disaster, they're the first ones there. They do amazing research on a range of topics. They adapt to make sure New Zealand's secure in whatever way that means. I mean, Ron Mark was the first Defence Minister under New Zealand. He was New Zealand's first Defence Minister under the 2017 government. He was the first Minister of Defence to declare climate change a national security threat and direct the Defence Force to start considering that when they do security reports. So things like that, people are shocked to kind of
they don't know it.
Put it into that perspective, and they're like, oh, well, maybe we should be funding the Defence Force, because it's all good and well to say that we should be helping our Pacific neighbours, especially when there's a natural disaster, but if the Defence Force helicopter can't take off, you're not going to be that helpful. So I love talking about New Zealand First policies like that with young people and recontextualising a lot of things that people don't really consider.
It's interesting. They may hear it from you being a young New Zealand First person, but they won't listen to an old fuddy like me talking about the same topic.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's just the stubbornness of the generation or not, but...
Oh. We all know that New Zealand First is a balanced, common sense type of party, right? And there are misconceptions out there about us. So tell us about what you hear are some of the big ones.
So there's two real big ones that I always come across at university-based events, or just youth events in general, is that one, we're a party for old people. My immediate retort is, I don't look that old, do I? And then the other one is people like to talk about the fact that we have a strong anti-immigration stance. Well, that's how they pin it. But what we're actually for is a sensible immigration approach. We are concerned about the levels of immigration having a flow-on effect on the rest of our social services that we have in New Zealand and our infrastructure and all of that kind of stuff. When it's already in a state of decay, I don't think morally our country should be letting copious amounts of people in if we can't even support them. If you've got crumbling infrastructure, what's the point in having more people come in? Unless they're an immediate fix to that infrastructure problem, then you're inviting them in to a lower standard of living than people deserve. I mean, you've got to make sure that when you're accepting more people into this country, that you're able to support them. I mean, when my grandparents immigrated here, the immediate thing was get a job, contribute back, give back to the people that you've brought that have brought you in, and help ensure that you're keeping the country running at a good standard to allow for more people to come in. Because at the end of the day, that's just immigration's a reality of the modern world. People move and explore new areas, and we're never gonna. You don't just stamp out immigration because that's just as morally unacceptable as bringing too many people in when you can't support them. But we need to get that balance right, and I'm very pleased to see some of the stuff in the coalition agreement that kind of matches that ethos. and hopefully it will shut down some of those misconceptions.
Yes.
But the other big one is the age thing. People say, oh, you're only a party for old people, but we're a party that's brought in free doctor's visits for young people. We've run campaigns on expanding education access for young people. I mean, we've had a universal student allowance policy since the 90s, and people still want to say we're a party for old people. We have student loan reform policies that if we were able to get those through, the student loan structure would be reformed entirely, and you'd have people unlocked from the shackles of debt. It's just mind-boggling that people love to just level accusations at us just because. I know we also worked for seniors. We got some wins for seniors, but we've done some amazing things throughout our history, and people need to give us some credit where credit's due.
Yeah,
and maybe take a step back and analyse that they're wrong, and have a look at some of these policies. I mean, we've got in the coalition agreement, we've got increases for youth aid officers. We're funding Mike King's Gumboot Friday, just $6 million every year. Those two things will help young people at an unbelievable level.
yes, yeah. I don't think we look old. Our caucus looks quite young.
I look a wee bit old sometimes, but I would never say the same about you. You always look amazing, Tanya.
Thank you. You got a brownie point there. So now you're in Parliament. There's been a big transition. Tell us all about that.
Yeah, so I do work for the party in Parliament now, but
Yes.
I'm also around as the Young New Zealand First chairman, talking with MPs about certain things that are important to our membership, and it's really helpful just being on precinct or in Wellington now, to work with MPs, and it's a huge difference to what we had outside of Parliament, where we worked very collaboratively on policy, but now there's a chance to take all that work we did over the last 3 years and try and action some of it. And as I mentioned, some of the stuff in the coalition agreement is some of the stuff that I spoke about with former MPs during the last 3 years. So having the opportunity to see that in effect now is just great.
Fantastic. And you're right, we can talk and talk and talk, but what does Winston say? All hooey and no dooey or something? Yeah, we're a party of lots of dooey.
Yes, we've always over-delivered is what I would say.
Yes.
You know, people go, oh, New Zealand First are a small party, they can't do anything. But then you look at our last two coalition agreements, we've got so many points across the board that things that just wouldn't have happened without us.
Yes.
I mean, this time round we've got the Regional Infrastructure Fund and the Fast Track RMA stuff, like Fast Track Consenting. Like, none of that would have happened without us. And those are two huge initiatives that are going to make everyday life in New Zealand a lot easier. I mean, things like being able to build 60-metre square dwellings without with just a structural engineer's report. That's going to make it so much easier for smaller communities that are more interconnected to build housing for their family members. I mean, I had a conversation with Casey Costello, and she said that the 60-metre square dwellings policy will be really, really valuable for the interconnectivity of Māori, because a lot of Māori families love to have that kind of close proximity.
Yes.
And it's something that, being Dutch, it's a similar thing on, with my culture. It's that closeness of family. Like, even that alone, that'll do wonders to improve the mental health and structure of young people when they've got so many more family members around them.
Yes, yes. Well, same with the Croatian community. My family, you don't want to leave home. The cooking's too good, right? So maybe go and sleep in the 60 metres out of the
Exactly.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about the future and what your aspirations are for Young New Zealand First, and particularly you as a leader.
I've got no personal ambition. I want to keep making the differences that I can, and I'll do that however I can. And I just want to keep trucking away, doing what I do. I don't plan things out. I don't aspire to hold certain roles or to be in a certain position. I just want to be able to do what I can do. But for the youth wing, obviously I want us to keep growing. That's a really important thing, because with the youth wing there's a cut-off at the age of 30, so you can only be a member for so long. So without growth, it's going to go nowhere realistically. But I want us to be just as recognisable as young Labour and young Nats. I want us to have a presence at as many events and places that we can, represent as many of our young people as we can, and make as much change as we can. Like, lobbying the party to adopt certain policies at convention is a huge way for us to make that change. But I want to see us launching petitions, submitting at select committees. I know that's boring political stuff, but that's ways that we can make real change and actually make our country a better place for young people. And I really want to see us having that capacity moving forward.
Well, thank you so much, and all the best, and congratulations on being such an amazing leader.
Thank you, and congratulations on becoming an MP.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us on FirstHand, the New Zealand First podcast. As always, send us your questions and comments and be part of the dialogue shaping the future of our nation. Subscribe, share, and stay tuned for more engaging conversations and stories that matter. Until then, I'm Tanya Unkovich, and this is FirstHand. Take care.